How's it going, my fellow snail sufferers? It's your missile guy. A year and a half ago, we received the PL-12. As usual, I like to do checkup type videos for the older missiles added to the game, and this time we're covering the regular PL-12, not the PL-12A. I would have covered this missile much earlier, but I hadn't actually used it post-nerf until recently, when I was able to ask for the SU-30 Premium to test. With that being said, let's get my usual disclaimer out of the way. A lot of what I'm about to say about this missile is based on personal experience and my current beliefs about how it performs. I'll discuss actual stats when needed, but this video is really about how this missile feels in the modern age of ARB. We're bound to have different experiences and opinions with any missile, so if you feel differently, feel free to leave a comment down below explaining it for others. With that being said, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, drop a comment, or hype the video. This helps a lot with my push to 4K subs. Thank you. About 3 months ago, the PL-12 and the PL-12A, along with the expert models that are copy and paste identical stat-wise, received a pretty hefty nerf, one that significantly impacted off-the-rail performance and overall missile usability. But what was it like pre-nerf? This missile proved to be a great middle ground between range and up-close performance, letting you use it at ranges extremely similar to the AMRAAM. It's worth noting we didn't receive the R-77-1 until the Hornet Stings update, so the only missiles that really competed with the AMRAAM range-wise were the AM-4 from Japan and the PL-12. Unlike the AMRAAM though, this missile performed really well in within visual range off-board sight fights, where you could commonly get it to pull into a shot the AMRAAM likely couldn't do. This proved really effective and great with the meta for China, however, as I said, this reign would potentially end as of 3 months ago. The PL-12 ended up receiving a nerf, which is the main point of contention. Gaijin claimed the missile would be more stable in its flight path, but this ultimately ended up hurting the missile more than helping. What Gaijin ended up adjusting was the PID values as well as the center of mass from the stabilizers. Long story short, PID modeling of a missile refers to how a missile steering logic is dictated. It's a system the game engine uses to calculate how a missile will move its fins to intercept the target you fired at, and it determines whether a missile makes a sharp overcorrecting adjustments or smooth stable ones. You can kind of look at it like this. P, for proportional, reacts to the current distance between where the missile is pointing and where it needs to point. The further it's off target, the harder the missile will turn. I, integral, reacts to accumulated errors modeled in-game to ensure the missile eventually lines up perfectly with the target, preventing an offset from occurring. And D, derivative, anticipates future errors by looking at how fast the missile is turning and or losing speed, steering just before it aligns to prevent the missile from violently overshooting or wobbling. The PID controller must be perfectly tuned for each missile's mass, speed, and fin size. If a missile turns too fast, it could be physically unstable, forcing it to drain all its speed, or in certain cases, spin out, like the R-73. Now, the topic of PID is rather complicated, so if I did get anything incorrect here, let me know below. This is all how I understand it, simplified, of course, for your average viewer, all gathered from just simply researching how stuff works within War Thunder. Finally, they changed the PL-12 center of mass, which is of course directly linked to the missile's agility in some form. This value was changed as seen on screen from 0.3 to 0.12, and it seems to have heavily affected the PL-12's off-the-rail maneuverability, which matters a lot with the current high off-board sight meta War Thunder currently finds itself in. So, now that we've got the pre-nerf and the nerf information out of the way, how do I feel about this missile in the modern age of War Thunder? Well, as of 7/15/2026, when I'm writing the script, I think this missile is still amazing. Even while using it on a shit tier radar like the SU-30 MKK, which I'm sure is making it lose performance due to how blind this radar is, my PL-12s are basically flying in IOG their entire flight unless I hold a hard lock. While I do recall the PL-12 being much more potent in up-close fights, even now I can still confidently use these missiles in a high off-board sight shot and have a relatively high chance of a kill. In fact, sometimes I even get surprised when the missile hits, if I fire one in a way that I feel only an R-77 or Micah would hit. These missiles still have incredible range. While they definitely are more consistent on a better radar where I can properly hold a TWS and data link them in for longer, they still feel amazing. Personally, I have no issues with the missile whatsoever, though I do see where the frustration can come from, considering this missile used to be much better. Finally, please remember that everybody will have different experiences, so if you have a worse experience with them than someone like me, that's alright. Comment your opinion down below. My entire point of mentioning this is just to show that this missile is still more than usable even after its nerf. So while I do understand that the nerf is bad and that it shouldn't have ever happened, it still is completely usable the way it is. So don't let that dissuade you from actually trying to use it if you're intending on grinding with it anytime soon. Alright, I decided to have this section as its own dedicated section because I think it's funny. Along with the nerfs of the PL-12, this unlocked the ability for players to now Sparrow roll a PL-12, the same way you'd Sparrow roll a Sparrow, but a lot more aggressively. This is a topic I see brought up so many times, both by the community and by people I discussed the PL-12 with. I'm gonna be honest with you, out of all my playtime with a PL-12 since its nerf, I have never seen anyone Sparrow roll the PL-12. I've seen people shoot it down with their gun, missile it, notch and evade it. Not once have someone Sparrow rolled my PL-12. I think the only time you'll ever see someone try to Sparrow roll a PL-12 is if it's a last resort. Do you want to know why I believe that? Because in ARB, unless you're in a 1v1, there's so much going on, such as people firing at you and just other threats in the lobby, that attempting a Sparrow roll on the PL-12, which is much more difficult by the way, is basically a death wish. If you're lucky, you'll be able to kill the person who launched it at you, but at the cost of that, you've bled all your speed in the middle of an ARB match, which usually means you die. Finally, at least for me, when I see a flanker shoot at me at 5 kilometers or less, my first instinct is to naturally get into a notch and shaft a missile, or to defend in some other form. I've never looked at a flanker, seen an unintentional missile launch, and thought, let me try to Sparrow roll his missile. There are way too many weapon variations that think B, he could be launching an ER, he could be launching an RVV if he has it, and in that small amount of time, you don't have enough time to decide if you're going to Sparrow roll the missile or not. As for the J10, again, if you're going to Sparrow roll, you'll be sacrificing a lot of speed and energy, because Sparrow rolling the PL-12 takes a lot more energy and requires a lot more effort than the Sparrow itself. The chances of that happening in a regular ARB matches are so incredibly slim. I don't think it's even a factor to really consider here, or as big as a deal as others make it out to be. As usual, I'll include my final thoughts. I really do believe this missile is just fine the way it is, even though it is hurt, and I've been using the GIMP version of it. The PL-12A is of course better than the base PL-12 due to its GNSS and other characteristics. I intend to make the PL-12A its own video, so I won't really be discussing its performance here. But performance-wise, it feels really good, and it'll likely be even better once it gets better aircrafts to be launched off of. We'll have to wait and see what Gaijin gives us. Overall, I still think the PL-12 is easily an A-tier missile. I have little to no issues with this missile, and I think it shows. However, this is just my opinion as I said earlier, so let me know what you think below. Anyways, that's all I have for you, my fellow snail sufferers. If you enjoyed it, consider hitting that like button, leave a comment below, hype the video, or maybe even subscribe, as we are slowly pushing towards our new goal of 4K subs. Besides that, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one.